Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
My wife of 8 years destroyed our marriage because her divorced moms group convinced her that happy wives are just women who haven't discovered their worth yet. Now she's 34, splits custody every other weekend, and sits alone at our friends' anniversary parties while I bring my new fiancé, who actually appreciates what we're building together. Let me tell you exactly how a group of bitter failures convinced my wife to throw away everything good in her life so she could join their misery club permanently. It started when our neighbor Rebecca knocked on our door 6 months ago. I was at work, so Lisa answered. Rebecca had just moved in after her messy divorce and was looking for mom friends who understood the struggle. She seemed harmless enough, another suburban mom dealing with the challenges of raising kids. What I didn't know was that she was recruiting. "You look like you could use some girlfriends who get it," Rebecca told Lisa that first day. "I'm starting a support group for moms who feel overwhelmed. Just women who understand what it's really like." Lisa came home excited about making new friends. After 8 years of marriage and focusing on our family, she felt like she'd lost touch with female friendships. I thought it was great. My wife deserved friends and support. The first meeting was at Rebecca's house. Lisa returned home energized in a way I hadn't seen in a while. "How was it?" I asked, genuinely happy to see her animated. "Really good. These women are so insightful. They helped me realize I do way more emotional labor around here than I thought." Emotional labor. That was a new term in our household. What kind of emotional labor? Like, I'm the one who remembers the kids' schedules, plans their activities, manages the household calendar. Rebecca says most women don't even realize how much invisible work they do. I nodded. She did handle most of the scheduling, though I thought it was because she preferred controlling those details. "Do you want me to take over some of that?" "It's not that simple. The girls say the issue is that women are expected to manage everything while men just exist in the space women create." The girls. That phrase would become the soundtrack to our marriage's destruction. Over the next few weeks, I learned more about Lisa's new support group. There was Monica, a 35-year-old with 3 failed marriages who called herself a relationship expert. Diane, 40, whose messy divorce had left her living with her parents while she got back on her feet. And Janet, 42, who seemed to collect divorced friends like trophies. "They're so wise," Lisa told me after her third meeting. "They've been through everything and come out stronger." Stronger. I looked at what she described. Women in their late 30s and 40s, either living with parents, cycling through relationships, or targeting married women for friendship. That wasn't strength. That was wreckage. But Lisa was glowing with their attention, so I kept my concerns to myself. That was my first mistake. The changes started small. Lisa began questioning things that had never been issues before. "Why am I always the one who coordinates with the babysitter?" she asked one evening. "Because you said you preferred handling it. You said I'd book the wrong person or forget to ask about their availability." "That's not the point. The point is that it defaulted to me because I'm the woman. It defaulted to you because you volunteered and said you wanted control over who watches our kids. See, this is exactly what Rebecca warned me about. You're making it sound like my choice when really it's societal conditioning." I stared at my wife, this woman who had always been decisive and confident in her choices, now speaking like she'd been reading someone else's script. "Lisa, you interviewed 3 babysitters, rejected 2 of them, and specifically told me you wanted to handle all childcare arrangements because you didn't trust anyone else's judgment. How is that conditioning?" "You don't get it." The girls explained how women are trained from birth to take responsibility for family management. Just because I thought I wanted it doesn't mean it was really my choice. The girls explained. Everything Lisa thought, felt, or believed was now filtered through the interpretations of 4 women who couldn't maintain stable relationships. The meetings became more frequent. What started as weekly support sessions became twice-weekly strategy sessions, with daily group text check-ins that had Lisa's phone buzzing constantly. "Can we have dinner without your phone?" I asked one Thursday evening as she scrolled through messages while our kids told her about their school day. The girls are dealing with a crisis. Monica's ex is trying to modify their custody agreement. Monica's been divorced 3 times. Maybe the crisis is her decision-making, not her ex-husband's. Lisa's head snapped up. That's exactly the kind of victim-blaming attitude they warned me about. Just because someone has bad luck in relationships doesn't mean they deserve to be attacked. Bad luck. 3 divorces wasn't bad luck. It was a pattern. But pointing that out made me the villain. The group text became more important than family conversations. Lisa would check it during the kids' bedtime stories, during our weekend walks, during any quiet moment we might have had together. What are they talking about that's so urgent? I asked one Saturday morning as she typed furiously while I made breakfast for our family. We're supporting each other through realizations about our lives. What realizations? Like how I've been living your dream instead of figuring out what I actually want. I set down the spatula. What does that mean? I got married at 26. I've never lived alone as an adult. I went from my parents' house to college to living with you. The girls helped me see that I never had the chance to discover who I am independently. You lived alone for 2 years after college before we moved in together. That was different. I was still figuring out my career. I wasn't truly independent. How is being married to me preventing you from being independent now? Because my identity is tied up in being your wife and their mother. Rebecca says I've lost myself in roles that benefit everyone except me. Rebecca says. Monica thinks. The girls believe. My wife had outsourced her inner voice to a committee of failures. The criticism of our marriage became constant. Lisa started pointing out problems that didn't exist until her advisors invented them. You never ask what I want to do on weekends, she announced one Friday evening. I asked you this morning if you wanted to go to the farmer's market or the park with the kids. That's not what I mean. You gave me 2 options you'd already decided on. You didn't ask what I might want to do. Okay, what do you want to do this weekend? That's not the point either. The point is that you should know what I want without me having to tell you. This was the impossible logic her group had taught her. I was controlling if I made plans, neglectful if I didn't, and unloving if I couldn't read her mind about desires she'd never expressed. Lisa, we've been together for 10 years. We've always made weekend plans together based on what works for the family. If you want to do something specific, tell me what it is. See? Janet said you'd make it my responsibility to communicate instead of acknowledging that you don't pay attention to my needs. What needs? Give me one example of a need I've ignored. She couldn't, because there weren't any. But her inability to answer proved their point, somehow. The group convinced Lisa that our stable, happy marriage was actually a prison of lowered expectations. They reframed every positive aspect of our relationship as a negative. Diane says couples who spend every weekend together are codependent. Lisa informed me after another meeting. We don't spend every weekend together. You have your book club twice a month. I play basketball with the guys. We both do things with friends. But we default to family time. She says that's a sign that we're afraid to be individuals. We have 2 kids. Family time is part of having a family. Maybe that's the problem. That stopped me cold. What's the problem? Maybe we had kids too young. Maybe we built this life before either of us knew what we actually wanted. Are you saying you regret having our children? I'm saying maybe I regret not exploring other options first. I looked at this woman who used to light up when she talked about our kids, who had wanted to start trying for a baby earlier than I did, who had called motherhood the most fulfilling part of her life. Her advisors had convinced her that her own feelings were lies. The financial manipulation came next. Monica, the 3-time divorcee, convinced Lisa that shared finances were a control mechanism. I need my own bank account, Lisa announced one evening. We've shared accounts for 8 years. What's changed? Monica explained how financial dependence keeps women trapped in relationships. I need to know I could support myself if I wanted to. You could always support yourself. You're a graphic designer with clients and skills. We share money because we're married and building a life together. That's the trap. The girls say shared finances make it harder to leave if you realize you're unhappy. Are you planning to leave? I'm planning to have options. Options. Not security, not partnership, not building something together. Options to escape the life we'd created. Lisa opened her own checking account and started keeping her freelance income separate. She began calculating what percentage of household expenses she could cover alone, how much child support she might get, whether she could afford an apartment on her income. She wasn't planning our future anymore. She was planning her exit strategy. The group meetings intensified. What had been twice weekly became almost daily hangouts. Lisa would arrange childcare to spend entire afternoons at Rebecca's house, coming home with new complaints about our marriage. The girls think you're threatened by my growth, she told me after one session. What growth? You've become critical, distant, and you analyze every interaction we have like you're looking for evidence of oppression. See? You're proving their point. They said you'd resist my self-discovery because it threatens your control. I don't want to control you. I want my wife back. The woman who used to be happy, who enjoyed our life, who didn't need a committee to tell her how to feel about everything. Maybe that woman was just performing happiness to keep the peace. That hurt, not because it was true, but because it was so obviously false. I'd watched Lisa grow into motherhood, seen her genuine joy in our milestones, witnessed her authentic happiness in quiet family moments. Her advisors had convinced her that 8 years of genuine contentment was actually elaborate self-deception. The breaking point came when they planned an empowerment retreat weekend. Lisa announced she was going away with the girls to work through some things. What things? My feelings about our marriage. About what I want from life. About who I am outside of this domestic role. Can we work through those things together? The girls say couples therapy just teaches women to accept less. I need space from your influence to think clearly. My influence. The man who'd supported her career, encouraged her friendships, shared household duties, and loved her unconditionally for 10 years was now an influence she needed space from. How long is this retreat? Just the weekend. Maybe a few extra days if I need more processing time. She left on a Friday morning with a suitcase and the smug confidence of someone about to make a life-changing discovery. She returned the following Tuesday completely different. The woman who walked through our door wasn't my wife. She was colder, more distant, speaking in therapy language that sounded rehearsed. We need to talk, she said, not even acknowledging that she'd been gone 4 days instead of 2, leaving me to handle school pickup, homework, and bedtime routines alone. I sat down, already knowing this conversation would change everything. I've realized I've been living your dream, not mine, she began, her voice flat and rehearsed. I was too young when I got married to know what I actually wanted. What do you want now? I want a divorce. The words hit like physical blows. 8 years of marriage, 10 years together, 2 beautiful children, a life we'd built from nothing. Because of a weekend with your friends? Because I finally had space to think without your influence clouding my judgment. My influence? Lisa, I've supported every decision you've made, every career choice, every friendship. When have I ever prevented you from doing something you wanted? It's not that obvious. It's subtle. The girls helped me see how I've been suppressing my authentic self to fit into this domestic role. Your authentic self? You mean the self that wanted marriage, chose to have kids, built this life with me? That wasn't authentic. That was conditioning. Society tells women that marriage and motherhood are what we should want, so I convinced myself I wanted them. I stared at this stranger using my wife's voice. You're saying our entire relationship was fake? That you've been lying to me and yourself for a decade? I wasn't lying. I was confused. The girls helped me understand the difference. The girls. Always the girls. For failures who couldn't build anything lasting had convinced my wife that her successful marriage was actually a mistake. Tell me about these girls, Lisa. Rebecca lost her kids in her custody battle. Monica's been married 3 times. Diane's living with her parents. Janet targets married women like a predator. These are your advisors? These are the people you trust over a decade of actual happiness? You're just trying to turn me against my support system. Your support system is a group of bitter women who need you to fail so they don't feel so pathetic about their own failures. Don't talk about my friends like that. Your friends? When's the last time any of them asked how you were doing instead of telling you how you should be feeling? She couldn't answer because it was true. Every interaction with the group centered on analyzing what was wrong with Lisa's life, never celebrating what was right. I've made my decision, she said finally. Choose, I said, standing up. Them or us. But I won't compete with a committee of bitter failures for my own wife's loyalty. I choose myself. No, you're choosing to become them. But if that's what you want, I'll make sure you get exactly that. The divorce process revealed everything I needed to know about Lisa's new priorities. She hired the lawyer Monica recommended, a woman who specialized in aggressive advocacy for women's rights, which meant scorched earth tactics designed to destroy rather than dissolve. She says we should go for everything, Lisa announced during one of our separation meetings. The house, primary custody, alimony, half your retirement savings. Lisa, you work part-time by choice, not necessity. You're a skilled graphic designer who could work full-time tomorrow if you wanted to. That's not the point. Janet says women deserve compensation for all the unpaid domestic labor we've provided during the marriage. You mean like how I've handled all the yard work, home maintenance, car repairs, and financial planning? Should I bill you for that unpaid labor too? She had no answer because her advisors hadn't prepared her for logical responses to their feminist talking points. The depositions were revealing. Lisa's lawyer asked me questions clearly designed by the divorce committee. Did you ever prevent your wife from pursuing her career goals? Did you expect her to handle all childcare responsibilities? Did you monitor her spending or control the household finances? The answer to every question was no, with documentation to prove it. Lisa had chosen part-time work when the kids were born. I'd encouraged her to expand her client base multiple times. We'd shared childcare duties based on our schedules, not gender roles. Our finances had been completely transparent and jointly managed. But the most damaging testimony came from our children's school and activities. Teachers, coaches, and other parents testified about Lisa's increasing absence from school events, missed parent conferences, and canceled volunteer commitments, all coinciding with her divorce group involvement. Mrs. Peterson used to be very engaged with Emma's activities, the soccer coach testified. But in the last 6 months, she's missed most games and practices. Mr. Peterson has been handling everything. The custody evaluator was particularly interested in Lisa's new priorities. Can you tell me about your support group? She asked Lisa during her interview. It's just friends helping each other navigate life challenges. These friends are all divorced. Some of them, yes. And they encouraged you to file for divorce? Lisa's lawyer objected, but the damage was done. The evaluator had identified the divorce committee for what it was, a recruitment operation designed to multiply misery. The financial reality was stark. Lisa discovered that her part-time income wouldn't support the lifestyle she'd grown accustomed to. The girls had filled her head with fantasies about taking me for everything. But Washington state's no-fault divorce laws didn't award prizes for dissolving functional marriages. Monica said I'd get the house since I'm the primary caregiver. Lisa complained after a particularly brutal settlement conference. You're not the primary caregiver. I handle school pickup 3 days a week, all sports activities, most homework help, and bedtime routines when you're at your meetings. That's temporary. I was exploring personal growth. For 6 months. While neglecting our children for your divorce committee. The reality was that Lisa couldn't afford our mortgage on her income, didn't want the responsibility of home ownership alone, and couldn't justify primary custody when she'd been absent for months of family obligations. We settled on 50-50 custody, no alimony, and an equitable property split. Lisa moved into a cramped apartment complex popular with divorced parents, while I kept the family home where our children's bedrooms, friends, and routines remained stable. The girls said I'd get primary custody because I'm the mother, she complained during one of our last conversations as husband and wife. The girls have been wrong about everything else. Why would they be right about this? The reality of single motherhood hit Lisa hard. The apartment she could afford was a cramped 2-bedroom in a complex full of other divorced parents, a beige wasteland of broken dreams and child support calculations. This place is depressing, she told me during our first custody exchange in the complex parking lot. It's what your part-time income can afford. You could get a nicer place if you worked full-time. The girls say I shouldn't have to sacrifice my work-life balance because of divorce. The girls also said you'd get the house and alimony. Maybe stop taking financial advice from women who live with their parents. Her apartment was a stark contrast to the home we'd built together, where our house had family photos, artwork from the kids' school projects, and furniture chosen together over years of marriage. Lisa's place looked like a hotel room with mismatched furniture from thrift stores. Mommy's house doesn't feel like home, our 8-year-old Emma confided to me after her first weekend there. It's still new for everyone, sweetheart. Give it time. But time only made the contrast starker. Our house remained the center of the kids' lives. Their friends came over. Homework happened at our kitchen table. Birthday parties were hosted in our backyard. Lisa's apartment became the place they visited. The social consequences were immediate and brutal. Our married friends didn't include Lisa in couple activities. The dinner parties, game nights, and social gatherings that had been central to our social life suddenly weren't available to her. It's like I don't exist anymore, she complained to mutual friends who still spoke to both of us. You exist, our friend Sarah told her bluntly. You just exist in a different category now. Divorced people have different social lives. Most of us can't relate to throwing away a good marriage for no reason. There were reasons, Lisa protested. What reasons? David was faithful, financially responsible, a good father, and he loved you. You got bored and let some bitter women convince you that boredom meant oppression. Sarah's words stung because they were true. Our friend group had watched Lisa's transformation with bewilderment and growing irritation. They'd seen her become critical, distant, and impossible to please, all while David tried desperately to save their marriage. We invited you both to things for months after you separated, Sarah continued. But you spent every gathering analyzing what was wrong with everyone else's marriage. You made people uncomfortable in their own relationships. I was just sharing insights from my support group. Your support group of divorced women? Lisa, nobody wants marriage advice from people who couldn't make their own marriages work. And nobody wants to hang out with someone who's actively trying to poison their happiness. The isolation was complete. Lisa discovered that married couples socialize with other married couples. Divorced women either formed their own bitter clusters or remained alone. The vibrant social life she'd enjoyed as part of our partnership evaporated the moment she chose to end it. Lisa discovered that the empowering independence her advisors promised came with a price tag. No shared mortgage, no combined income, no built-in partner to handle emergencies when kids got sick or schools called. She tried dating, following her group's advice about getting back out there and remembering what it feels like to be desired. But dating as a 34-year-old divorced mother of two was nothing like the fantasy her advisors had sold her. The dating scene is incredible, Rebecca had promised. So many successful men looking for mature women who know what they want. The reality was harsh. Dating apps were brutal for divorced mothers. The men her age who were worth dating were either married or dating younger, childless women. The men who didn't mind kids often had their own complicated situations. Multiple baby mamas, failed careers, substance issues. These guys are losers, Lisa complained to Monica after a particularly disastrous date with a 38-year-old who still lived with roommates and worked part-time retail. You're being too picky, Monica replied. You can't expect to find another David right away. That kind of stability is rare. Another David. The irony wasn't lost on me when Lisa repeated this conversation during a custody exchange. Monica says I shouldn't expect to find someone like you immediately. Monica's been married 3 times. Maybe her expectations are the problem. Lisa tried lowering her standards. She dated men who were financially unstable, emotionally unavailable, or completely wrong for someone with children. Each failed relationship reinforced what she'd thrown away. Remember Tom, the guy who seemed nice? She told me after another breakup. Turns out he was still married. Separated, but still married. Did you ask about his marital status before sleeping with him? The girls said I shouldn't interrogate men about their personal lives on early dates. The girls gave you advice that led to you dating a married man. Are you starting to see a pattern here? But Lisa couldn't see the pattern or refused to acknowledge it. Every failure was explained away as bad luck, poor timing, or the difficulty of the modern dating scene. Never as the predictable result of taking relationship advice from serial failures. The quality men who might want serious relationships weren't looking for recently divorced women who spoke bitterly about marriage. Lisa's dating profile and conversation were poisoned by her group's anti-marriage rhetoric. I had coffee with this lawyer last week, she told me during one custody exchange. Really successful, attractive, seemed interested. What happened? He asked about my divorce, and I explained how marriage is an outdated institution that benefits men at women's expense. He said he was looking for someone who believed in partnership, not someone who saw relationships as a power struggle. So your advisor's philosophy cost you a potential relationship with a successful man who wants commitment. It's better that I found out early that he has patriarchal views about marriage. This was the cognitive dissonance her group had created. Any man who wanted marriage was patriarchal. Any relationship expectation was oppression. Any compromise was betrayal of feminist principles. But somehow, she was also supposed to find love and partnership while rejecting the foundations of both. Meanwhile, I focused on providing stability for our children and rebuilding my own life. The house felt peaceful without the constant tension of Lisa's group-induced unhappiness. I could make plans without wondering if they'd be canceled for emergency meetings with the divorce committee. The kids thrived in the stable environment. Without Lisa's constant criticism of our family structure, they relaxed back into the routine and security they'd known before her awakening. Homework happened without drama. Bedtime stories weren't interrupted by group texts. Family dinners were pleasant again. "Dad, why is Mom always angry now?" Emma asked me one evening. "She's going through some changes, sweetheart. It's not about you or your brother. But she says mean things about you, and about marriage, and about families. It makes me sad." Lisa's poison had infected her relationship with our children. Instead of protecting them from adult problems, she'd made them participants in her bitter worldview. They heard her criticize marriage, family structure, and traditional values. They watched her treat every aspect of their former life as oppression she'd escaped. The girls think it's important for kids to see their mom as an independent woman, Lisa explained when I confronted her about involving the children in adult issues. The girls think it's appropriate to use 8- and 6-year-old children as audience for your divorce justification? I'm not justifying anything. I'm showing them that women can be happy without men. You're not happy. You're bitter, struggling financially, and dating losers. What exactly are you teaching them? She had no answer because the girls hadn't prepared her for that question either. 18 months after our divorce was finalized, I met Anna at a school event. She was a teacher, 31, who loved kids and understood that building a relationship meant partnership, not keeping scorecards of who did what. Our first conversation was refreshing. Anna talked about her work with genuine enthusiasm, asked thoughtful questions about my kids, and never once analyzed our interaction for signs of oppression or control. She was confident without being defensive, independent without being bitter. "It's nice to meet someone who actually likes children," I told her after we'd been dating for a month. "Why wouldn't I like children? I teach them every day." My ex-wife's friends convinced her that focusing on kids was a form of self-sacrifice that prevented personal growth. Anna looked confused. "But raising children is one of the most important things people can do. It's not sacrifice, it's investment in the future." This was revolutionary after years of Lisa's group-influence complaints about motherhood being a trap. Anna embraced her role in our family without trying to replace Lisa. She supported the kids' relationship with their mother while providing the stability and joy that had been missing from our home. She helped with homework without resentment, attended school events without calculating emotional labor, and found genuine pleasure in family activities. "Anna doesn't act like taking care of us is a job," Emma observed after Anna had been in our lives for 6 months. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" "When Mommy did things for us, she always seemed angry about it, like we were bothering her. Anna acts like she wants to help us." This was the difference between someone who chose to be part of our family and someone who'd been convinced that family was oppression. Lisa noticed the change immediately when she picked up the kids for her custody weekends. "The kids talk about Anna like she's some kind of saint," she told me bitterly during an exchange. "She's good to them and good for our family. Isn't that what matters? She's good to them because she doesn't have to do the hard parts of parenting. She gets to be the fun bonus mom while I deal with discipline and homework stress. She does homework help 4 nights a week, handles bedtime routines, attends every school event, and disciplines them when necessary. She does everything you used to do, except she doesn't resent it." That hit home. Anna found joy in the domestic role that Lisa's advisors had convinced her was oppression. She cooked family dinners because she enjoyed bringing people together. She organized family activities because she valued shared experiences. She maintained our home because she took pride in creating a comfortable environment. Everything Lisa had been taught to see as servitude, Anna saw as service, the difference between being forced to do something and choosing to do something out of love. "The girls say she's just in the honeymoon phase," Lisa said defensively. "Wait until she realizes what it's really like to be tied down by domestic expectations." Anna's been doing domestic expectations for over a year now. She seems to get happier, not more resentful. That's because she doesn't have the full responsibility. You still handle the financial pressure, insurance, major decisions. She just gets the fun parts. This was another lie Lisa's group had sold her, that household partnerships were inherently unequal, that someone always got the better deal. That cooperation was impossible. They couldn't conceive of a relationship where both people willingly contributed to shared goals. The truth was that Anna handled plenty of financial decisions, insurance questions, and major choices about our family. The difference was that she approached these responsibilities as partnerships, not burdens imposed on her by patriarchal expectations. Maybe the problem isn't domestic responsibilities, I suggested. Maybe the problem is your attitude toward them. You sound just like your new girlfriend. No, I sound like someone who's discovered the difference between a partner who wants to build something together and someone who's been convinced that building things together is oppression. Lisa's bitterness intensified as our relationship with Anna deepened. She started questioning the kids about our home life, looking for evidence that Anna was fake, controlling, or secretly unhappy. "Does Anna ever get mad at Daddy?" she asked Emma during one custody weekend. "Sometimes, but they talk about it and fix the problem," Emma replied innocently. "She never seems frustrated about cooking or cleaning or taking care of you guys." Why would she be frustrated? She chose to live with us. Out of the mouths of babes, Anna had chosen our family, chosen our life together, chosen to find joy in partnership. Lisa had been convinced to reject the same choices as oppression. The final blow came when I proposed to Anna. The kids were excited. They'd grown to love her and felt secure in our blended family. Lisa was devastated. "You're replacing me," she accused. "I'm marrying someone who appreciates what we're building together. You replaced yourself the day you decided to listen to 4 bitter women instead of your husband." Our wedding was small but beautiful. The kids were in the wedding party, glowing with happiness about our family coming together. Anna's vows mentioned learning from others' mistakes and appreciating what we build together, subtle references to the life Lisa had thrown away. Lisa sat alone at the ceremony. Her advisors were conspicuously absent. Rebecca had moved away to start fresh. Monica was busy with her own 4th marriage. Diane was dealing with another failed relationship, and Janet had found new targets to manipulate. At the reception, Lisa sat at the singles table with other divorced women from various friend groups. The lonely table, as Anna privately called it, the place where people who couldn't maintain relationships gathered to commiserate about their failed choices. I watched Lisa from across the room, sitting with women she didn't know, picking at her food while Anna and I danced with our kids. This was the life she'd chosen. This was what her advisors had promised her: freedom, independence, self-discovery. She discovered, all right. She discovered what life looked like when you threw away love for the approval of people who didn't love you back. The group that had seemed so supportive during her marriage destruction had scattered once their mission was accomplished. They'd gotten their validation, another successful marriage destroyed, another woman joining their ranks of permanent relationship failure. Lisa had gotten exactly what she asked for. She'd wanted to discover who she was outside of marriage and motherhood. Turns out, she was someone who made terrible decisions and let bitter people poison good things in her life. She'd wanted independence from the influence of a husband who loved her. Now she was independent, all right. Independent and alone. Watching from the lonely table as I built with Anna everything she'd convinced herself wasn't worth keeping. The girls had been right about one thing. She definitely learned who she was outside of our marriage. She was someone who let failures convince her to become one of them. And now she had a permanent seat at their table, the table reserved for women who destroyed their own happiness and called it empowerment. Anna and I are expecting our first child together next year. Lisa found out from the kids and called me, crying. "I made a terrible mistake," she sobbed into the phone. "Those women ruined my life." "No, Lisa, you ruined your life. You chose their opinions over 8 years of happiness. You chose their bitterness over your family. You chose to become them. Can't we try again? For the kids?" "The kids are fine. They have a stable family with Anna and me, and they have you every other weekend. What they don't need is the chaos of you trying to undo consequences you created. Please, David, I know what I want now. What you want now is what you threw away 3 years ago, but I'm not interested in being your backup plan when your advisor's promises didn't work out." She hung up, and I felt nothing but relief. The woman who destroyed our marriage was finally experiencing the full cost of her choices. She'd traded partnership for isolation, family dinners for empty apartments, social inclusion for the permanent singles table. Her advisors had moved on to destroy other marriages, find new relationships, or simply disappeared. But Lisa remained, sitting alone at every social event, watching other people build what she'd convinced herself wasn't valuable. She'd regretted not listening to the girls sooner. I'd made sure she'd never have to live with that regret again. Now she could be exactly like them, divorced, struggling, and desperately searching for what she'd already had and thrown away. The lonely table had an empty chair with her name on it. And thanks to her excellent advisors, she'd never have to give it up.
Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.